assault and batteries, but my trunk stay ever ready. Assault and battery, if you scared, you never ready.
Alright, it's been 1 year since the passing of, in my opinion, the second greatest wrestler of all time, the immortal Hulk Hogan. And in this year, it's been quite a roller coaster for those who really call themselves a fan of Hulk Hogan. You had the documentary come out earlier this year, and it really shed a different light on like who Terry Bollea was as a person, and really how all the controversies and all those years in the spotlight really affected him personally. And just seeing those home videos, seeing his ex-wife Linda's reaction to everything, just how close him and Nick are. Brooke was obviously not part of the documentary due to like her kind of separating herself from the family. But it's just crazy how Hulk Hogan will forever be what pro wrestling is. And, you know, I do say the second greatest of all time, and that's just me being biased. You know, I'm sure people will put him as number one, but growing up with Stone Cold Steve Austin, seeing the impact he made on not only myself, but in wrestling in general, that'll always be my guy. And I'm sure this generation will say it's John Cena, but Hogan did what others didn't do, what others couldn't do. And to this day, it's like reached that level of just superstardom on a different level. If you watch the documentary, you just see how big Hogan really was. And, you know, growing up, obviously I was born in 1990, so I kind of didn't really see the prime of Hogan, but I was there for the NWO Hogan, and it was crazy. You know, I was always a WWF guy, but we were fully aware of like what Hulk Hogan was doing in the NWO. And when he came back to the WWF in 2002, it was like that's when I really got to experience what Hulk Hogan is all about, and seeing the standing ovations he got in Toronto and Montreal, all over the world, him being tag team champions with Edge, being WWE champion, facing The Undertaker, Triple H, The Rock. It was something I never really thought it would be possible. And just going back and reminiscing about like all the good times that Hogan's given us in wrestling, but also the bad times. And I know a lot of people will say that's what his legacy is going to be, is just the last appearance he did on Raw for the January 1st or 2nd show. And it's a shame because I wasn't expecting that to happen. And I know in the documentary they were kind of saying that like Hogan coming out being the pro-Trump, you know, real American guy, it is going to turn a lot of people against him. And he didn't care. He was very much believe in what, you know, stand up for what you believe in. And he was able to face the consequences. And, you know, it sucks that I was the last thing he'll be remembered for on TV, because I think his legacy is just so much more than his political views. And the thing is, WWE in general, and I think people fail to remember that the WWE loves Donald Trump. You know, Vince, Triple H, Kane, Undertaker, just to name a few, who have really come public to like show their pleasure for what Donald Trump is doing in office. But the thing is with Hulk Hogan, I think he was always the guy that was in the middle. He wasn't someone who really pushed for that. And I think with him being in the spotlight and just who he is as like an individual, just being someone that was a superhero. You know, it's like if we were to see Thor or like Captain America really go and be pro-Trump, and I think that would turn a lot of people, because it's just someone you never really expected to choose a side. He was always kind of in the middle, always do the right thing. And, you know, I just think back and I'm like, man, I wonder what life would have been if Hogan didn't make these decisions and really gone public of what his political views really are. But then even that, like you rewind like 10, 15, 20 years ago, the sex tape stuff, the racism stuff, and it's like Hogan couldn't get out of it. It was always something that really consumed him, and it consumed his family. And when you're under the microscope the way you are, like many celebrities are these days, it's like you can't do anything without being criticized. And I feel like a lot of them have a great PR team, a great HR team. They tell you what to do, they tell you what to say, they tell you where to stay, where to act, whatever. So I think people are very, very, it's like walking on eggshells, where I think Hogan was the last generation where you kind of said whatever you wanted to say, do whatever you did, whether you're in the spotlight or not. And I think he really caught the bad end of the stick. But to me, like, Hogan will always forever be like the immortal one, you know, from the thing with Andre, WrestleMania 3, Warrior, WrestleMania 6, and then you just go on, and from WrestleMania 18, 19, 20, or sorry, it wasn't at 20, but 18, 19, 21, that was like, I got to experience Hogan on a different level. And it was, it's sad. And I remember the day I found out, it was like a year ago, I actually found out through Apple News. I was at work, I was on my phone, and I got a little message from Apple News saying, you know, WWE legend Hulk Hogan had passed away at the age of whatever, however old he was. And I was shocked. It was like literally, it's like someone just slapped me in the face. And I remember I was working with a couple other people who got the news and they knew I liked wrestling, and they immediately like just turned to me and just went like, "Are you okay?" Like whatever. And it was almost like something came over me where it was like, yeah, like I'm fine, but like obviously I'm shocked because you heard that he was in the hospital prior. You heard he was going through a lot of health complications, but not to the point where like he dies. You know, he was supposed to be the immortal one. He's supposed to live forever, right? Just like Ric Flair, just like guys like Arnold Schwarzenegger. It's these guys, you can't see them dying, like point blank, right? So to see Hulk Hogan actually take that next step, you know, he passed away, and I'm like, damn. And I remember at the beginning it was more denial, and I go through these weird phases when it comes to wrestlers and death. I think Eddie's really affected me like a lot, like to this day. Jay Briscoe's was another one. Benoit's for obvious reasons, but Hogan's was different. It was like I was older, so I kind of understood. Like obviously he's older, but it never really hit me until I watched the documentary. And I remember watching with my wife, and she's sitting on one end of the couch. I'm sitting at the other end. And if you watch the documentary, you know that last 10 minutes or the last 5 minutes, basically from the time he was doing the sit down, they said we'll follow up in 3 months. He never, obviously, he died in between that time. And then they do a whole recap of his life, and they show the impact he made on professional wrestling. And just that compilation they made was head over heels. Like, it was so good. And it really, and for her, we're both sitting there. I'm crying, she's crying, and it's like, but for different reasons, right? She's crying because she sees like the impact, not watching wrestling, but knowing who Hulk Hogan was. But for me, it's like all the stuff they're showing in those highlight packages, like I lived through, I've seen before, and I can almost relate to it because it affected me as well as a wrestling fan. And for her, it's just like an outside person kind of learning about who Hulk Hogan was. And yeah, it was tough, honestly, watching that. I remember I was trying not to like cry too hard where she like notices, so I have like my shirt over my face, and my shirt was drenched in tears. And I think we looked at each other after. We both knew, like, we both cried during this documentary. But that's when it really hit me, was the end. And yeah, I can't believe it's been a year, and it's scary to think about because it's like these guys that we grew up with, they're going. You know, that's just reality. That's just life. You know, one by one. We're not. You know, I'm 36 years old now. Started making YouTube videos when I was 19. Watched wrestling since I was 4. So all these people that I've grown up with, wrestling-wise, are dying. Not as the fastest rate as they were when I was like 17, right? 2007, 2008. That was a bad time for wrestling. But I think now with all the protocols, and I think wrestlers are really taking care of themselves a lot more, and a lot of it is due to natural causes. But it's still crazy to think, like, you see guys like The Undertaker, guys like Jerry the King Lawler, for example. I saw a recent interview with him, and he, like, it's just you haven't seen him on TV in a while, and you see, like, he's having hard troubles, like, speaking now. And it's just sad that, you know, these heroes that we have are, like, you know, it's all part of life. But we see them on TV, we see them as superheroes, and it's a hard reality to understand. But I don't know, with Hulk Hogan, it's a shame, honestly. I just feel like it's so much stuff has happened, and I think on one hand you have to kind of forgive and not forget, but at least forgive for like a lot of the stuff that happened. And I think he, being someone who found, I don't want to make excuses for him, but he did a lot of shitty things. But like for me, it's just I'm able to look past it, but I know a lot of people aren't. So you are, you know, it's all perspective, right? At the end of the day. But for me, he'll always be the immortal one, and it's crazy to think that it's been a year since all this happened. So, R.I.P. Hulk Hogan, and I'll see you guys in the next video.